Hi, this is Black Krishna, or BK, for manfulwars.com, where I'm promoting polite patriotism to help nice ladies and gents teach kids to be, to help us all look, talk, and feel great, and to help us locally discuss and share great online info offline as nice, helpful people making better people and better places to live. So check out manfulwars.com for more on that. But this video is called Trump's America. Went from 1/5 to 1/4 of the world's economy. Why don't other leaders copy him, right? Trump's America went from 1/5 of the world's economy to 1/4 of the world's economy in just 3 years. That's incredible, right? So why don't other world leaders copy him? And Trump has said whenever he talks to other world leaders, they often say, wow, your economy's doing so great, right? You know, that's what they're most impressed by when it comes to Trump, because that's one of their major concerns, right? And yet at the same time, we don't see a rush by other world leaders to copy him, even though his success is evident. Now, America's a different animal, a different breed, a different country. They're bigger. They're they're already 1/5 of the world's economy, so they're obviously pretty dominant. But to go from 1/5 to 1/4 of the world's economy in just 3 years is incredible. And a lot of the things that Trump is doing, are things that other world leaders can easily copy. You won't get the exact same results, but you can get similar results and really improve your country's economy if you're a world leader out there. So why don't they do that? Well, what I'll do to help explain or expound on that is I'm going to show you an article from the Gateway Pundit, and I posted a link to this below. It says here, truly amazing. President Trump so good that U.S. has gone from 1/5 of global economy to 1/4 of global economy in just 3 years. So there's the Gateway Pundit. Here's their banner, thegatewaypundit.com. And that's clearish, links below. And here is the article by Jim Hoft from December 27th, 2019. Just so you know, I'm messing with you. It's right here and it's below. And so I'll go through this, and then I'll talk about some of the issues that other leaders are having relative to what Trump's doing. So it says here by Jim Hoft, never has the United States had such an amazing economic president, right? And it says here, under President Trump, the U.S. has grown from being 1/5 of the global economy, 21.2%, to 1/4 of the global economy, 24.8% in just 3 years. This is truly amazing. And there's that. And there's a shot of Trump with his thumbs up. Unless that thumbs up is now seen as a racist symbol, in which case, sorry about that if you were triggered, but, all that stuff is stupid, so you shouldn't be, so figure it out and stop. It says here, the Sun reported via power lines. This is the Gateway Pundit reporting on other news stories. And this is what a lot of independent media does, right? A lot of independent media, people wonder, where's the truth? What's the truth, right? And as somebody who's been a veteran journalist, an activist, an artist, and businessman, and so on, I can tell you that the Gateway Pundit, Infowars.com, Breitbart.com, Rebel News or Rebel Media in Canada, many other independent news organizations, they find news that's reported but not repeated, which is more likely to be the truth, right? Not always, certainly, right? But it's more likely to be the truth. News that's reported but not repeated, and then is cited by the independent media as actually being big news, or parts of news stories, right? Sometimes they'll bury some key details in a longer article, the mainstream media, right? Mainstream news that's reported but not repeated is where a lot of independent media gets their stories from. They don't necessarily have the resources of the mainstream media. They don't have a lot of the expertise and the connections. They, can't necessarily look into all these things. They can't necessarily get their phone calls returned as easily. Now, in fairness, a lot of independent alternative media does do a lot of great on-the-ground journalism, first-person journalism, so I'm not trying to short them on that. But I'm saying a lot of what they do is they find news that's reported but not repeated, which is more likely the truth. News that's repeated everywhere is more likely propaganda. because that is what propaganda is. It's repeating stuff everywhere until it sticks, until it brainwashes everybody. You'll have really simple stuff, right? Like Eliot Spitzer, former Attorney General and Governor of New York, right? He was caught with $5,000 a night hookers or something like that, a few years ago. And I remember reporting on this in my radio show, and I remember saying, why is this story about Governor Eliot Spitzer, who happens to have an interest in $5,000 a night hookers, why is this on the cover of every newspaper in North America? Doesn't make any sense. It was on the cover of the Toronto Star, the National Post, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Seattle Times, all the other Times, all the other Tribunes. Why was it suddenly, it just broke, and all of a sudden the next day, the day it broke, it was everywhere, right? That's propaganda. That's the globalist, deep state, Mockingbird, CIA, whatever, control of the media at the highest levels that pushes certain stories to bam, hit everywhere and everybody at once. And from what I can tell, in recalling that, it was something to do with Eliot Spitzer taking on the president at the time and challenging some of what the president was doing with some other attorney generals or something like that, whatever. But the point is this, is that news that's reported but not repeated is more likely truth, and that's what a lot of the alternative media uses to sort of prove their case. So it's not even like the mainstream media is always lying. It just takes an interpretation of what's going on by people that have a good track record of doing this to sort of understand really what the story behind the story is, or what the real important stories are relative to what's sold everywhere. So that's the key to that. And so there's so much stuff out there, and that's why the independent and alternative media is growing, right? Back to this news report from Gateway Pundit via The Sun, via Powerline. They've got hyperlinks to these here. It says here, the research also found that the USA now makes up for a quarter of the world's GDP, the largest share of the world's economy since 2007. And the American economy is not due to be overtaken by China until 2033, 3 years later than forecast. And a lot of things can change, in the next few years. But China has their Belt and Road, or One Belt, One Road initiative, and their China 2030 plan. You can simply type China 2030 into Google or DuckDuckGo or Startpage, a better search engine, and you can find they've got formal plans for China to dominate most sectors of the world's economy, agriculture and mining and blah, 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 all that stuff, by 2030. And that's because they're a globalist vassal, right? The globalist, super rich central bankers, evil people that want to weaken countries and bring them all under global governance structures like the UN, World Trade Organization, International Criminal Court, and others, and violate national sovereignty and destabilize countries and weaken countries and people to achieve that control. They're the ones backing the rise of China. They're the ones who pushed for China to be entered into the World Trade Organization, be given most favored nation status, be chosen as the manufacturer of the whole world. They're the ones at the top, pulling the strings of people below them to facilitate this. And Trump, as a nationalist, is trying to fight against that. And so that's good. So it says here, the U.S. share of global GDP is 3.6% higher than halfway through Barack Obama's presidency in 2011. And it's interesting. It says here the largest share of the world's economy since 2007. So right before Obama became president, the U.S. was doing great economically, and then Obama comes in, and then Obama, slows things down a little bit, globalist sellout, puppet president. He's just like you. Barack Obama, I'm just like you. I like sports. I like beer. I pick Duke to beat North Carolina in the game. It's like, what are you doing this crap for? Aren't you supposed to be presidential? Aren't you supposed to be better than us? Aren't you supposed to be a leader? Aren't you supposed to be a business tycoon who can manage a giant business like a country? Oh, no, wait, that's Trump. That's not Obama, right? Obama was just the sort of everyman, front man figure, the guy you'd want to pal around with, go to a beer with. He recently released on Twitter a list of his favorite movies, right? He's an everyman kind of guy, but he's not a better man, should be in charge kind of guy. And an author, independent journalist, and a guy named Webster Tarpley, who I like and respect, although I disagree with him a lot more these days. But he talked about what the Obama presidency would be before Obama got elected. And he said Obama would be like Jimmy Carter, right? Jimmy Carter became president in 1976 until 1980 when Ronald Reagan took over. And and Jimmy Carter was a smiling-faced, happy guy, peanut farmer from Georgia, and you know, he was supposed to be the great Democratic hope in much the same way Obama was. And yet, during the Jimmy Carter presidency from 76 to late 70s to 1980, there was what was known as the Carter malaise. The Carter malaise, where everyone kind of felt bleh, but they had to say they felt good because it was Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter can, right? And this sort of thing, right? And so because he was a Democrat, liberal Democrat president, you know, you're supposed to feel good about that. He's a good guy. He's on the right side of things. You don't want those evil conservative Republicans in there. And yet when he got in, the Carter malaise included economic crisis, recession, massive rise in oil prices, destabilization along the world, because he was fundamentally a weak president who did not resist giant corporations, giant globalist institutions, international institutions, and so on, and other factors, and wasn't strong with other countries, wasn't strong in defending his own country. But he was a nice guy. I'm Jimmy Carter, and I'm a nice guy. You shouldn't say anything bad about me because I'm Jimmy Carter and I'm a nice guy, right? That was Jimmy Carter, right? And it's very similar to Barack Obama. I'm Barack Obama. I'm a nice guy. I'm the first black president. Half black, but good enough. And you shouldn't say anything bad about me because otherwise you're a bad person or someone else will call you a bad person. So you can't criticize the president anymore. You can't criticize the president of the U.S. for 8 years. You're not allowed to do that. He can screw up all he wants. The media won't do it, and the media won't let you do it, and your friends won't let you do it, and that's Barack Obama, right? So all sorts of crazy crap happened under Obama, just like all sorts of crazy crap happened under Bill Clinton, well, things were better under Clinton, frankly, but you know, there's other reasons for that. It was because they were, you know, they gave us a decent economy and good times, and they sold everything out from under us while we were distracted by those good economy and good times to the World Trade Organization, to the United Nations, to these international agreements, all the setup of the shipping of America and the West manufacturing base over to China, over to Asia, over to the third world, was managed under Bill Clinton. He signed all those things, and it started under him. And to distract us from that massive scam, they gave us better times than other times, right? But the point is, just like Obama, just like Carter, there is the malaise going on. And so it's interesting that this article says that it's the biggest since 2007 when Obama came in, right? And frankly, during the election, during the 2016 elections, right? It was hilarious, for people that were supporting Trump versus Hillary towards the end, but before voting. I recall it's actually very famous, right? There's a very, very famous clip of Barack Obama with dress pants on, nothing but a dress shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking trim, fit, good-looking guy. I'm not crap. Michelle Obama's ugly as hell, but Barack Obama is a good-looking guy, and it's not a racist thing. There's hot black chicks too, but Michelle Obama is ugly as hell, and Barack Obama is a good-looking guy. And they can fool you into thinking, Michelle Obama's good looking. Just like they can fool you into thinking a guy with a big beard wearing a dress is a hot girl. But that's just messing with you and it's bullshit, right? But anyway, so Barack Obama was campaigning for Hillary Clinton, and he's on stage, and he says, Trump says he's gonna bring all these jobs. He's gonna create all these jobs. How's he gonna do that? Does he have a magic wand or something? You can't just do that. You can't just create all these jobs, right? It's crazy. He doesn't have a magic wand to create all these jobs, right? And this is the president of the United States at the time saying this while campaigning for Hillary Clinton to become the next president against Trump, right? And it was hilarious to the Democrat crowd. They were cheering, ha, ha, Trump doesn't have magic wand to create jobs. How can he do that? He would only be president. How could he possibly create jobs, right? And it was a hilarious clip. So then Trump gets elected. He gets into office. And if you follow the White House YouTube channel, for example, you can literally see a lot of what he's up to in a lot of the meetings. So Trump becomes president in 2016, is inaugurated in January of 2017, and among the first things he does in the first month in his office is he invites 100 plus, top American CEOs, business leaders of some of the largest companies in the United States to a big meeting around a giant kind of square, boardroom table. And there's like 100 CEOs sitting there. It's all on YouTube. You can see the meeting, you can see whatever. And Trump says, you guys are great Americans. You have great American companies. You make great products. You employ great people, and you've done a great job. Now, how about this? How about you start manufacturing more stuff in the U.S. and instead of shipping everything over to China, we'll help you because I'm president of the United States. I've got a lot of power. I can do a lot of things. I can work with Congress and work with the Senate, and I can draft executive orders, and I can help you make sure that it's profitable to invest in America and invest in American jobs and the American economy, and not just say, well, we're screwed in America, and so you've got to send everything over to China to make money and make sure your quarterly earnings are good and your stock price is up. You can actually do that in the USA. So who's with me, guys? He looked around at the 100 CEOs, and all the 100 CEOs of FedEx and Under Armour and Bank of America and all this looked at each other and, all right, if you are the president and you can help us do this, and this is what the administration, if this is what their goal is, the Trump administration's goal is, sure, okay, we'll CEO of Apple, whatever, yeah, okay, we'll put more manufacturing plants here, right? If you're gonna cut taxes and cut regulations and eliminate a lot of obstacles to us doing business here. And if the general business climate is that we don't all have to, the intel on the street and the insider trading intel and the sort of general vibe is the West and America isn't screwed and everything's going to happen in China now or Asia or other parts of the world. We can actually be successful here and it won't affect our bottom line and our balance sheets and blah. Sure, okay, we'll do it. So that's how Trump did it. Not a magic wand, as Barack Obama said, how's he going to do that? Does he have a magic wand? Keep in mind, Obama had been president for 8 years, from 2007 election to 2008 to 2016. And then late in 2016, he's still president. He's been president for 8 years. He says, you need a magic wand to do that. No, you don't need a magic wand to do that. You need to be president, and you need to want to do that. You need to have a plan to do that. You need to execute it. You need to have to actually have the power and ability to do that, which the president does, right? So when they say you can't do that, it's BS. And this relates to, other leaders of the world too, right? And there's reasons that Obama, didn't do much. Just like others. And those reasons are basically sell out to globalism. Like I said earlier, globalists want to weaken countries, control them. Globalists sell out leaders, presidents and prime ministers and so on will sell out their countries to globalism and weaken their countries and say their hands are tied, they can't really do much, this is the way things are. Whereas nationalists will say, no. We got a great country, great people, great resources, we can do great things. If I'm in charge, we'll just use all that stuff to make us richer, as opposed to having all that stuff and saying we can't use it, right? And that's why a lot of leaders, don't do that. So there's a little jag on Trump and Obama relative to 2007. And back to this article, and it says here, more from the World Economic Rankings from the Center for Economics and Business Research, CEBR. It says here, the USA in 2019 reached 24.8% of the world GDP, its largest share of the world economy since 2007. And the US is now expected to remain the world's largest economy through the 2020s and is to be overtaken by China only in 2033, 3 years later than we forecast 2 years ago. Right? Now Trump's got a lot of forces working for him and against him and confusing him, and there's a lot of deep state globalist acolytes and sellouts and so on around the administration in the US government, the deep state, which is the entrenched bureaucracy. Bad enough if it was just a bureaucracy of just people with government jobs. They just want to expand their departments, get more tax money, have more employees, increase their salary, increase their power, not say we need less regulations. Like, I'm in charge of writing regulations. We need more and more and more until you can't start a business without them looking up your bumhole, right? So that'd be bad enough. But what's even worse is a lot of these people are controlled by foreign interests, right? The globalist super rich people, even the British Empire never lost. They just they just changed their name and they set up places like the Royal Institute for International Affairs in London, England. They set up the Council on Foreign Relations in the US, in New York. They set up the Canadian Council of Chief Executives. All the Commonwealth countries have some extension of the Royal Institute for International Affairs out of England. And the U.S. not being a Commonwealth country, but being, sort of Commonwealthy in terms of close ties with England, U.S. and England, U.S. and Britain, their version is the Council on Foreign Relations. So those people, those groups are a few thousand of the business, political, media, cultural elite that get together. They get their talking points from people above them. They get to figure out what the smart thing to say is, what the ideas are, where things are going, and then they fan out to their respective companies and corporations and government agencies and media organizations and cultural institutions and so on, and they execute those ideas, right? So you go to the CFR and they say, in the next 10 years, everything will be made in China. Nothing will be made in America. They go, okay, is that how we all feel? Is that what the more elite among the elite feel? Fair enough. And they go back and they execute those plans, right? So that's the issue, is that it's not only just a bureaucracy, the deep state bureaucracy, it's the controls on that bureaucracy, both internally with the rich people sort of locally, the corrupt rich people, and then externally with the corrupt globalist central banking mafia and others that are welding the strings. The bankers control everything. We know that. Many of us know that. Print fiat currency out of nothing, just sort of make it up, loan it to countries, and then charge interest on it, and they can print as much as they want. And sometimes they find different ways to hide it. Like, for example, a house a few years ago cost $50,000. Same house now costs $500,000. That's a sink for all the excess money they print to slow down inflation, right? Inflation still happens. It's still a dollar don't buy it what used to. A dollar could have bought you, a hell of a lot more. It used to be you can get a pack of gum for a nickel. Now a pack of gum will cost you a couple of bucks. So there is inflation, right? But, or now a pack of gum will cost you a dollar. Before it was a nickel. But they hide a lot of that inflation by increasing the price of housing and real estate, telling everyone you're making a lot of money off it, when in fact they're just hiding inflation as well. So there's lots of tricks they have to sort of execute their plans. But back to this article referencing these other articles, and I'll put a link below. It says here, perhaps the most unexpected element in this report is the ongoing strength of the U.S. economy, though we expect that 2019 will prove the high watermark as the problems of the trade war and the deficit impinge. But in 2011, the U.S. economy was 21.2% of the world GDP. In 2019, share had risen to 24.8%, highest since 2007. It is now forecast to remain the world's largest economy through 2020s, only overtaken by China in 2033. So a little bit of repetition from the Gateway Pundit, but it's a short article, and it's something important for a lot of people to see and to understand, right? And this is the difference between a nationalist, populist president from the left or from the right, typically more conservative, preserve what works, save our traditions, save our country, as opposed to liberals, make changes, make people happy. What's the changes? Who are the highest profile ones we listen to? Oh crap, they're selling us out and we're all screwed, right? But regardless, you can have populism from the left or from the right, as long as it's not corrupt, it could work. But why don't other leaders do this? It's because they're sellouts, right? If other leaders don't see what Trump's done in 3 years when it comes to cutting taxes and making sure the average American family has $5,000 more in their pockets than they did last year because the taxes were cut, and cutting regulations, all this red tape, bureaucracy, tying up businesses, making it hard for them to expand, invest, take chances, and hire more employees, right? If other leaders don't simply do some version of that, kind of where you live, then you know they're sellouts, and you know you got to deal with that, and you got to, try and push for those changes, right? And the way to do that, frankly, there's online stuff, but online is often, people talking to like minds and censored the digital ghettos. So there's also the offline info war, which is traditional meetings. You use meetup.com, for example. I've done this myself with a group called Toronto Truth Seekers to set up local meetings for patriots. You can use meetup.com or Facebook or whatever. Set up local red-pilled patriot groups. You'll have all these people that you may barely talk to when you're typing to strangers online, if you even do it all, getting together, meet for lunch once a week, every Saturday, say 1 o'clock, get together, talk shit with each other, build relationships, earn each other's trust, then feel like doing more than just talking. Then you've got the meetings, you've got the meet and greet tables, you get together, not protests, not, we're really mad, we already know, everybody hates this, and now we can go. Right? It's like, that's stupid, right? It's not bad to show numbers, show interest, and so on, but it's at best a starting point. It's not the end point of activism, right? What you can really do is you can have meet and greet table there, signs, posters, umbrella. You've got a bunch of posters, flyers, DVDs to hand out. You and a bunch of other patriots hanging out in public where you live. You typically don't need a permit. If you do, you might need a busker's permit, one of you or whatever, which is pretty cheap to get in your city. And you chill out there, and you're chilling out with each other. You show you get along with each other, and you show you can get along with others. You're not so crazy that you can't make a friend and make a few friends, and you all seem to be getting along better than a bunch of nervous, confused people milling about. And you'll get people ignoring you. You'll get people saying hello. You'll get people who just take a little piece of paper that you hand out, or whatever, or a flyer, DVD, whatever. You'll get people coming over, having conversations with you, and you'll slowly, calmly, and consistently, as polite patriots, inform and empower people where you live. Plus, you can leave them elsewhere, leave them on cars, leave them in mailboxes. Basically, if patriots can beat junk mail, then we can win. If patriots can't beat junk mail, then we deserve to lose, right? If you can't beat a Burger King coupon with some stuff that could save a kid's life, then you deserve to lose. And if you don't, then we probably deserve to lose, right? Whereas if we're just typing, to like minds on Twitter or leaving YouTube comments for strangers and all that sort of thing, I think that's a trap, right? I don't think it's always bad, but I think it's a trap. I don't engage in it much myself. Because the offline info war, locally winning the offline info war is more important than the online info war. They work together, but locally winning the offline info war is even more important. And then you can be creative, you can distill things, you can share things. You'll have some people scared to take something, but you can make really tiny 1 by 3 inch pieces of paper with a couple of websites and a little info on them. And so here you can slap some posters up and say, parents, check out massresistance.org, right? And parents walk by, parents, love your kids, massresistance.org. They're like, okay, I saw it, stuck in my head. I do. Might as well Google it, right? And they'll Google it, and they'll find massresistance.org, which fights against the LGBT pedosex ed agenda, sexualizing kids at early ages, and all the mass brainwashing, very pro-family, very whatever. And you can help where you live like that. Otherwise, people end up splintered into digital ghettos, and they end up with, totally different. It's not like the world used to be, where there was only a handful of newspapers and TV channels, and we all kind of had the same info, and we could all talk to each other. Now it's like this person watched 20 different YouTube videos and saw 50 different tweets, and this and that. This person did this, and now, especially with the social constipation, trouble talking with political correctness, gender neutralization, people sheepish, sketchy, sideways. Oh, put up with me. I just want attention. Can't be a straight up guy or a nice girl anymore. Just have to make each other uncomfortable. With that going on, people don't respect each other enough to communicate well. So even if they see stuff online, they often can't talk about it offline, right? So you could promote polite or be nice, which everyone likes, right? So you're not going to get crapped on for that. And then from there, you can make more informed and empowered people who can say or hear, get bad guys, or let's be able to, communicate well about fun or serious stuff, communicate better about fun or serious stuff. So you go to a movie, you don't just say, how was the movie? It was good, socially constipated, gender neutralized, wipe my nose, look at my toes. No, you'll be able to talk better about the fun movie you watched. You'll be talking better about the serious stuff, like an election coming up, where you can inform and empower people so that your views are reflected by the people you elect, And you could say, if you don't believe this, we're not going to vote for you. And the politician will be like, well, I want to get elected, so I'll believe that. And then you'll put in better people in power who can advance better agendas, right? So online, definitely good. I like it. Obviously, I'm here and I share things from the internet. But the offline InfoWar is even more important where you live, locally, making sure you're polite patriots, getting along with everybody, helping everybody get along better, helping earning your respect by helping your neighbors get it, and as part of that process, being nice, helpful people, making more and better places to live. And who's going to crap on that, right? And that's how you can get your leaders to copy some of these policies, because it's not that hard. It's not that hard if you're in charge to say, what did they do? Can we do something like that? Cut taxes? Yeah. Even cutting taxes. You may be like, well, how will we pay for the schools? How will we pay for the roads? We need more and more and more taxes. More and more pay for all that stuff. There's a pothole on my street. That's not how it works, right? Even John F. Kennedy, former U.S. President John F. Kennedy in the 60s, among others, realized and saw, and this manifests, that if you cut taxes and people have more money to spend, and businesses have more money to spend, and if you cut regulations and so on, and you have more money to spend, then people spend more money. And what does that more money mean? That more money means more tax revenue anyway. So cutting taxes increases tax revenue. If it's 50% on taxes, basically on everybody, if you add up personal income tax plus sales tax or whatever, we lose about half our money in taxes. But if you cut that down to 10%, and people have all this money, they're not just going to sit on it. Most people aren't just going to stash it in the Cayman Islands or some offshore bank or a numbered Swiss bank account. They're going to, screw this, instead of a 45-inch TV, I'm buying a 75-inch TV. Okay, so instead of a $400 TV, you're now buying a $4,000 TV, whatever. And to pay taxes on that TV is going to be a lot more taxes than on $400. And the government gets that revenue to pay for the schools and roads and so on, right? So there's all these lies out there, right? Just like when the government screws up, the government screwed up. They tried to build a bridge or a road or a subway extension or something, and instead of costing $1 billion, it actually cost $10 billion. They're so stupid. The government is so incompetent. The government can't get anything right. No, that's just brainwashing. That's incompetence is hiding corruption. Somebody got that money. Somebody got that money. When they say the government's so stupid, they can't do anything right. It's taken forever to finish that. Yeah, that's not incompetence. That's corruption. Somebody's taking and making all that money. It's not like they just lost it down a toilet or a sewer or something. Somebody's taking that money, right? So these are some of the little tricks out there to kind of mess up people when it comes to understanding these things. And yet we can beat that. We can transcend that. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now. I'll post a link to this below. Again, Black Krishna or BK from manforwars.com. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with any questions or answers or interview requests or to work together or financial support. All of it's greatly needed and appreciated to expand these efforts. As far as I know, I'm the only one who's really focused on the offline InfoWar, even though everybody agrees with it. Nobody's like, you're so stupid, that'll never work. People just like, jump back on Twitter, right? Or not so sure, people around me are acting weird, not sure I can do anything near them except act weird too, right? And whatever the hell the brainwashing is. But again, if support these efforts and other parallel efforts, then you'll see more, and your hood will do better, right? And before the 2020 election, you can get lots of people out there, because it's not just a question of supporting whatever Trump and the Trump campaign and others, or wherever you are in the world, come up with. It's about influencing that. It's about getting everybody where you live, everybody in your city or your state or province or country, or as many people as possible, to understand, more of what's going on and to push for better. And that will be reflected by the politicians in charge who want to appeal to people, right? If you know nothing and politicians have to appeal to nothing, then they can sell you nothing. right? They can say, well, we can't do this. I feel really bad about racism and sexism and homophobia and climate change. The weather may or may not be bad in 20 years, even though they can't get it right for this weekend. Feel really bad. You know how it is. You should feel sorry for me. I'm trying my best. You know, you're like, no, 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 no. You're full of crap. If you're that much of a mess, you shouldn't be in charge. Here's what we need you to do, right? And Trump's proven when it comes to the economy and a couple of other things that it works, right? And you can tell Trump's a nationalist. You know, he goes to the UN. He says every country should be like this. Every leader should put their people first. We don't have to be the same. But when it comes to nationalism versus globalism, when it comes to capitalism versus socialism, we know nationalism is much better than globalism. Capitalism is much better than socialism / communism. And we've got the proof over the last 100 years or so of this being true, right? So you can make this sort of thing happen. If you want to make this sort of thing happen, online is fine, or censored digital ghettos. The offline InfoWar is also key to making stuff like this happen. And before I go, I'll just say simply, this is how a lot of cities get the fluoride out of their water supply, right? People hear about fluoride being bad for you, not being good for your health, not being good for your teeth, actually being bad for your health. And you can look into that more if you don't believe me and figure it out for yourself, as opposed to going, you're just stupid. I can't say certain things. I can't even hear about them. That's how weak I am. It's like, hopefully one of your buddies helps you out down the line, or other people where you live, right? But that's how people get the fluoride out of their water supply, right? They meet, they find out, they organize, they meet, and then they get out there with posters and flyers, and they inform their neighbors, and then, they get some independent media coverage, then they get some mainstream media coverage when it's big enough that it's safe for the mainstream media to cover them. And there are some good people working in there. They just can't cover certain issues or certain angles, but they can cover people working on things. So even if people are doing something that they can't cover at all, the media can show up and say, we're not taking a side on this. We're just looking at this big group of people locally trying to do something. We can cover them, right? It's even happened with the group I was with, Toronto Truth Seekers, where CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, came and covered us. And you can do that, right? Independent media coverage, mainstream media coverage, and then the local city politicians, municipal politicians, the mayor, the city councilors, maybe there's enough of a stink, and then you approach your city councilors, and your city councilors take you seriously because of all the people behind you and the coverage behind you. And even if they think it's crazy, or they thought it was crazy to think that fluoride is bad for you, right? They will go, well, okay, a lot of my constituents in my riding, in my city, in my district, in my whatever, are making this big stink, and they're pretty organized, and they're pretty vocal, and they're getting everybody hip to it. Maybe I'll look into it. Maybe I'll reflect what they're telling me. And then they do it, and they go through city council, they introduce resolutions, they vote on them. Everybody in your hood knows by now fluoride's stupid, and the city council would look stupid keeping it. So instead, they take it out of the water supply. They save, $1 million in tax revenue, and they save a lot of people from health risks caused by fluoride being given medicinally to everybody against their will by being pumped into the water supply. And I won't go into a whole thing on fluoride right now, although I could. But you get the idea of how changes are made with the offline InfoWar. It's not just people didn't get fluoride out of their water supply by just tweeting to other people who didn't like fluoride, right? That's not how they did it. They did it by informing and empowering everybody where they live, and then from there, seeing positive changes manifest related to the issues they were on about. And there you have it. So as I said, like, comment, subscribe, share, get in touch with whatever. Feel free to use clips of this video or repost this video. Let me know if you'd like for your own efforts. Otherwise, Black Krishna or BK from manforwars.com. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.